We're here with Nichole Pinkard, who is the founder of Digital Youth Network and the chair of DML 2014. And Nichole's track is on learning identities and pathways for all with a focus on serving non-dominant youth. So I'd love for you to tell the people who are going to be attending and thinking of attending what's exciting to you about talking about this track with others.
So I'm really excited about having this particular track and focusing on identities and pathways. I feel that over the years since the DML conference and really the whole DML initiative has been in existence, we have been striving towards this goal of putting together all the tremendous work that has been done around the country in research and intervention such that we can put it together in terms of pathways that can engage youth from the beginning of their interest all the way through, hopefully through college and into college and finding career pathways. And so one of the things we really wanted to focus on is not just so much on individual programs that are successful, but begin to think about how we're putting those program opportunities together in a way that allow youth to be able to see learning opportunities and to follow their passions from one program to the next. But with that, we understand that if you're going to engage a youth to really put in the time and effort to explore a pathway for any period of time, there has to be some sense of identity that they're connecting to, some sense of their own identity that they're connecting to that pathway. So who do they think they're becoming? What are the roles and identities that are visibly related to that pathway that youth are seeking to take on, and then willing to put in the work to develop that identity more robustly. So that's part of the rationale for why we're putting in identities and pathways together, because we feel that they have to be connected. You can't build out pathways that youth are going to want to explore unless you're addressing the identity issue. And at the same time, we need to be very clear about what are the identities that we think within the space of digital media and learning we're able to support youth in taking on. The final part of the name is with a focus on non-dominant youth. And to this particular issue, we think all of the work that has been going on in DML for all these years has actually focused on providing opportunities for non-dominant youth. But one of the things we've learned, at least in our work, and I think it has been also brought up by the work of others, is that oftentimes there needs to be different on-ramps onto pathways for different youth. Some youth come from families where they're very used to knowing that if they have an interest, there's opportunities out there and programs out there designed to allow them to develop their interests. Some youth, unfortunately, come from families where, in home lives and situations where they might have interests, but they don't necessarily know how to access the resources to help them develop their interests. So we believe that we really have to focus in on not necessarily saying you have to have different pathways for different youth, because we're not saying that, but understanding how do we provide hooks and triggers to enable all youth with a focus on non-dominant youth and understanding how to access and how to stay engaged with these particular pathways. So that's in a nutshell of where we hope that the track is about, and we're trying to solicit papers from all walks of researchers and academics, those who are actually in the trenches doing interventions that address these issues, but also those who are now in the badging world and community trying to explore how are they creating not just individual badges, but learning pathways that might result in badges that address this particular issue. And then any research we know that has been sort of longitudinal, that sort of looks at identity development over time, and what is it that we can understand and learn and gain from how identities develop over time that can help us as we think about how we create pathways moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Can you think of an example of what you mean by a pathway? How might one of these pathways look?
So I'm going to give you two examples, and if anyone's heard me talk is probably tired of hearing me use this one, but I'll use it, and then I'll give you one that's a non-DML, and then one and try to translate it over into a connected learning DML approach. So one always uses basketball. I think it's very clear that basketball is a pathway, sports are a pathway, music are a pathway, where it's clear to youth how they engage and what they need to do to practice to develop and get better. You have to practice free throws. You have to learn how to play in JV leagues and junior leagues. And so you can start playing from the age of 3 all the way up. You can play in formal spaces and formal leagues, but you can also play informally. The props that you need. You need a basketball, you need a basketball court, you need teammates. You also understand if you're a point guard, you practice differently than the center practice, but then you all have to bring it together collectively to play on a team. You have coaches, you have referees, you have so many different players that come together, and you also have role models. So you're looking up, even though you're a 5-year-old, you're looking up, you see Michael Jordan, but you also see all kinds of different players in between, from in between different skill levels. So your only aspiration isn't to have to be Michael Jordan. You can aspire to be the starting point guard on your 3rd grade team, or on your 5th grade team. So what it also comes with that pathway is multiple milestones that are attainable, that as you attain the in-between milestones, which could be equivalent to attaining badges in some sense, as you attain those, you're making progress and it's moving you closer to what your ultimate goal is. But you're not having to sustain motivation, from beginning as a 5-year-old. The only payout isn't if you make it to become Michael Jordan. There's so many payoffs along the way that even when you get to the point that that's not your identity, isn't to be that, that Michael Jordan, you still have developed a set of skills, a set of interests, a set of relationships that you can still keep building on and keep playing even as you transition. So if we turn, and that's the same in music, it's the same in so many arts programs, let's say, that are not digital media, that I think we all intuitively understand how we can get better at, and how and where are the affinity spaces, the places where we can go both play, spectate, watch what others do, and if we choose to want to coach and mentor, we know how to engage in that space. So when we turn it over into school, and even if we say into digital media, are we as aware of those same types of places and spaces and affinity spaces, where if I want to say I'm interested in math, where does that come from? Where can I go and say, let me engage in a community that's connected to math? In digital media, we've begun to see some. Chicago, we just this week we had Brave New Voices Poetry Fest that was in town here, which is a international poetry competition for high school students that starts off in their local high schools, also then builds up to competitions at the city level, at the regional level. And those teams can either be in the schools, they can also be in community centers. And kids, every year, they work religiously around developing their poetic skills, both the writing and the performance skills, such that they can represent their city in the region at the national competition. And so that's an example of a pathway that is sort of clear to kids what they need to do and the effort and the practice they need to put in. But that's sort of narrow. I mean, it's poetry is sort of a little narrow. We've definitely seen it in the space of video, and of course in music. Music definitely is one. There's so many kids believe that they can be musicians, digital media artists, and things like that. What I think we haven't done in the connected learning community is sort of explicate and really show what these pathways are. What are the ones that we know exist, and sort of show how they connect across cities, if they do connect across cities. But what are the what we call performance spaces within cities that allow kids to showcase their work, which either allow them to get, we'll say, credit or props for being good at something, but then also serves as on-ramps for other kids who want to come in and take those on. An example of one that's also been quite successful is US First Robotics. Is an example of a pathway. You can start all the way up. I think they have they have one that just starts with putting Legos together with nothing programmed, all the way up to the national high school robotics competition. So that's an example of a pathway that has made visible programming, robotic engineering in a way that has gotten a lot of youth who would never engage to connect and engage with it.
Wow, wonderful. I can see some of this on YouTube. You can see young people making pathways for each other. So thanks very much. Looking forward to the program, Nichole.
Oh, thank you, Howard.